We get into business to enrich ourselves. We don't get into business to enrich our society. We flipped it around, which translates into corruption in government areas. The essence of building a business is to enrich society.
When I went for the interview, the administrative manager did not like me. And he said, the way people get jobs here is if you visit me in my house in Kubwa.
We get into business to enrich ourselves. We don't get into business to enrich our society. We flipped it around, which translates into corruption in government areas. The essence of building a business is to enrich society. If you check the biggest economies in the world, the economies are built by SMEs. The economies are built by entrepreneurs. It is the GDP of a country is based on the businesses growing that aggregate into the whole country's national gross domestic product. So this meeting is to have a deep conversation about how unique experience in the area of trade globally that impacts the local person here building business with a global perspective. So tell us a little bit about how you were able to champion Nigerian Chamber of Commerce.
Abuja Chamber of
Abuja Chamber of
Commerce.
because that's how the conversation started.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. So how did I get to Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry? I was working on the EU projects. I started working on the EU project, I think 2002. And I was really enjoying it because the trajectory of my career it grew really fast, you know. And how did I show up there? I was working with the bank. I did not like working in the bank because I took up that job because I was hungry. I just graduated from the university. I finished my youth service and I just needed to feed myself and then maybe extend some little bit of cash to my brother who was in the university. And so I resumed this job at the bank, and the only thing I was hearing was grrr. I was counting money. It was not me. I was going to lose my mind. And I was like, no, 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 no. This is not what I was created to be. Let me add value in higher places. And so I applied for this job at an EU funded project. When I went for the interview, the administrative manager did not like me. And why didn't he like me? I was introduced to him a week before the interview, and he told me clearly, he's late now. He's gone to be with the Lord. And he said, the way people get jobs here is if you visit me in my house in Kubwa. And I was like, did I leave this whole system in the bank to come and face it on that donor-funded project? And I said, no, I'm not going to come and see you in your house, but I'm going to be very useful to you. You will be glad that you employed me. And he dismissed me. So, but I was lucky. The woman who was the deputy team lead for the project liked me. She thought I was smart. And she insisted that I was going to be interviewed. So she told the team leader, she's a German. She made a whole fuss out of it until I showed up for the interview. So when it was my turn to be interviewed, he left. He left the room. We waited for him for like maybe 30 minutes. And then when the team leader was a Swiss American, the deputy team leader was a German woman, and he was the administrator. So you see, he was the Nigerian. He was I would say, the most important component of that interview at that time. And so they just interviewed me and left. When he came, he scored me really low. And so it meant that I was not going to be employed. When they were done with the interview, the German lady said, well, there's no gender balance. So I had to be employed. So he employed me. Now, I was coming from a salary of about 250,000 naira per month at that time. And if you know, 2002, that was a lot of money.
Yeah, of course.
Yes. And then I was given this job when during Koja. So I made some millions too, right? I already had my car, I had a nice house and everything, but I really felt I needed to go to where my heart, would be comfortable.
What is Koja?
It was the All African Games.
Okay.
You remember the All African
Yes,
Games?
yes.
So the woman insisted I had to be employed. So he said, okay. He called me to his office and said, I have only 30,000 naira per month for you. And I said, honestly, sir, I will pay you 30,000 to take this job.
You said to him?
Yes. So he had to employ me. He took me to an office, a backyard office where nobody goes there. Nobody even knew that room was actually connected to the project. And I would go there, I would write memos. He sent me to Kubo. That time, Kubo was a very local furniture market. To buy furniture for the house, for the office, gave me 5,000 naira per table. I found myself sitting on the floor and begging carpenters to sell tables for me at 5,000. And I didn't care because I knew where I was going to. I knew I had to, start that aspect of my life. So when I'm done, I go about my business because I was doing business and all. And then, so one day, a problem happened within the system, and the procurement officer that they employed had to be fired. Someone just insisted that she had to leave. And the project was at a critical point where they couldn't afford another round of interviews. They couldn't afford having to go through the whole bureaucracy of employing someone. And so he called me and said, look, Victoria, I know we've not been good friends, but we have to fire this procurement officer. Are you interested in the job? And I was like, oh, wow, good. But everybody was worried that the procurement officer will have to report directly to him. I said, no problem. We've had our differences, but we can put that aside and get this project going. So they employed me. They gave me the job. Fast forward to maybe 1.5 or 2 years later, he was fired and I replaced him. So, and what happened? So there were these procurement procedures that the EU was insisting on. But I don't know whether he did not have the capacity or he did not have the patience to follow it through. So immediately when I entered the office, I saw the whole problem. And I was like, Vicky, if you do not solve this problem, you're also going to be fired. Because these people look like they have to get what they want. So I started reading. I opened up the website. The link they were always sending to us. It was a website of thousands and thousands of heavy documents. So I said to myself, I'm going to read this. Okay. I'm lucky my mother was a teacher. So in my house, you must read, And I read over 1,000 pages every day. And so I drafted the dossier that they wanted. And then I walked up to the team leader and I said, look, I think this is what they want. Can you email this to them and let's see. Last, if that's not what they want, at least they've seen some effort from us. They will call us for a meeting. And the team leader said, look, I'm not going to send these documents to them. These guys are very disrespectful. I don't want anybody talking to me anyhow. So you send it to the head of section, an email from a common officer. So I said, okay, no problem. So I wrote the email. I copied everyone. I sent it to the head of section. Before the end of that day, the head of section called and said, look, who drafted this document? He said, you see, you're in trouble. You shouldn't have done it, Said he wanted to have a meeting with us. So when we were prepping for the meeting, he said he only wanted to see the person who drafted the document and the team lead. He does not want to see my immediate boss. And that's how it started. We went there, they corrected it, they told me where to amend and what to do. And that just, fast-tracked me to procurement manager. I oversaw 24 locations at the age of 27 or 28. I was already, at management level. So I was a very lucky kid. So
Were you really lucky?
I think I was,
Wow.
because I don't really think that I'm the only person who could have done that. There are loads of people who have the kind of capacity that I had at that time, who did not have the opportunity or the exposure or the kind of upbringing that I had to, take the bull by the horn like that. Yes.
Just cut you short a little bit. There, when I read the biography of Nelson Mandela, The Long Walk from Freedom, he said what he found in South Africa during apartheid was not lack of opportunities for the blacks, but lack of the ability to take advantage of them when they show up. Does that sound like what's happening right now?
Yes.
So I think luck is an element of it's a phenomenon that happens when someone is ready, if the opportunity comes.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
So I was working on the EU projects for about 17 years, and I got bored because it was all these loads and loads of documents you're reading, you defend. But there's something that happened when I was there. They employed this very troublesome procurement officer at the EU delegation, Abba. I can call his name because I'm sure he'll be happy I'm even talking about him. Abba was very troublesome. In a very good way. When he came, he looked at the whole system. He was coming from, I think, the World Bank. He looked at the whole system and said, Victoria, these procedures are not working for us in Africa. The intention is not to give us money if these are the procedures that these people are insisting on us adhering to. So I want us to write and ask them to change some things. I was like, okay, this is EU procedures are agreed upon in the ACP meetings. This was the Cotonou Agreement. Now you want someone to change the Cotonou Agreement today? It's not going to happen. You still have to reconvene, have another meeting, and change it. He said, "No, Victoria, we're going to change it now." And so he wrote and said, "We can't continue with this. We're not going to achieve anything if we do not change this part of the agreement." Before I knew anything, Abba went to Brussels and came back with it. But I actually sat down and packaged the defense for him. I told him where the loopholes were. I wasn't there for more than 2 years, but like I told you, because I had studied the procedures, I was on top of it. And then he just came back and said, "Look, I'm even going to change your designation to procurement expert. You've done well. Who has done this before?" And so I started to have a chip on my shoulders, like, I've arrived at 20. You know what happens when you're in your 20s, right?
Right.
And so I felt I was, so fast forward to 17 years later, I set up my business, and I don't know what happened, but with all the money that I was paid working under donor-funded projects, I was broke by the time I left the job. I was really broke. I couldn't understand what happened, but I set up my business anyway, and I called my sister in. I called my spouse. I called my one of my cousins who lives in Kano. And I said, "Look, I want us to set up this business, and it's going to be an event management business, but it's going to be different. We're not going to organize events like, we're not your regular events manager, or, we're going to take charge of the entire administration of the event. And it's going to be a corporate event management company. So we'll manage the whole process, right? The meetings, sub-meetings, the logistics arrangement, the travel arrangements, everything." And so it took us about 1 week to draft that proposal. We went online, dug up proposals. It really had to align with the vision that we had. As soon as we were done with that, a friend of mine came and said, "Victoria, I heard you have an event management company. Primary Healthcare is organizing the first ever vaccine summit. And I think your package is what will work, because it's funded. The main funders are the Gates Foundation, Gavi, the big boys in it. And they have been looking for someone who can do what you're doing. And looking at your background, I think it will be good. And so we went there. Fast forward to when the contract was signed. The first real job that we had was valued at $1 million at that time. My sister and I were like, okay, so how are we going to handle this? Because we thought we were going to start with small contract of 10 million, 5 million, so $1 million.
Naira, right?
Yes, Naira. $1 million. So we had to put the whole team together to work with. And this is what has worked for me till today. I cannot work alone. Because I know that I cannot be chief everything officer. I always have to have the right expertise to complement mine and, move things forward. Yeah. So so I thought we were going to make a lot of money, $1 million. I mean, if you're a Nigerian, you'll be thinking, she must have made maybe 50% of that. I don't think we made up to 10%. Because again, I applied my perfectionist tendency, right? I needed to get it right. And I was privileged to work very, very closely with the chief executives of the Gates Foundation. I mean, the owners of the Gates Foundation. And so I really needed to impress. I was afraid I was going to get it wrong. And so I put the money back into the project to make sure that it succeeded. And it did succeed. I don't think they've had an event, a vaccine summit like that anymore. I don't know why. But that was a very successful event. And so, having done that, my mentor called me. And this particular mentor, Prof, I met him when I was, when I just graduated, when I came for youth service. My immediate elder sister, my late sister, actually introduced me to him. And I worked with him for free. So I managed the administration of the then AGOA Secretariat. When AGOA first came 25 years ago, the African Growth and Opportunity Act. I was the secretariat. I was the only secretariat they had. And I'm going to talk about AGOA. And so he was very good to me. He would give me 5K, 2K to go home,
This is after you have done with the...
No, wait. I'm just taking you back to when I came to Abuja.
Okay.
I came to serve. I came for my youth service. And so I really held him in high esteem. He helped me look for the bank job. He was really into my life. That kind of person who doesn't, he never, I'm sorry, but, and please excuse me, I'm not saying everyone is like that, but for a young woman who just graduated and came to Abuja to work, the amount of I'm trying to find the right word so that I don't say it wrongly. The level of sexual harassment that you encounter it just becomes the norm. But this particular man never did that. He said, Victoria, I think you're going to be great, and I'm going to be your father in this town. And so he really helped me. So when I left donor full-time work and I established my company, he called me. I said, I know this thing is not the kind of thing that you will do, but we're trying to establish the Chamber of Commerce, not establish, actually, to restructure the Chamber of Commerce. We want to take it to the next level, and I want you to come and help me and my friend. So I was like, okay, what is Chamber of Commerce? What I felt, okay, is it that thing, that trade fair ground? He said, you see, that's the problem. That's why I want you to come. Chamber of Commerce is not trade fair alone. It's a lot of things, and we need somebody with your expertise. And you know how a professor will want to speak English to convince you. So I was like, okay, let's go and see what's going on in the Chamber of Commerce. When I got there, I was like, is this where this man wants me to come and work? Me? Has he forgotten who he's talking to? I can't work in this place. This is a boys' quarter. I can't. I just can't. I came back home and I was like, how am I going to decline? I don't want to take this job. And he kept on, but I can't say that to him because he's somebody who is way ahead of me. And if he's there, how can I tell him that that place is too small? So I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to negotiate with him. What he really wanted me to primarily do is to establish the training center because a huge component of the work that I did in the EU had a lot to do with training and capacity building.
You had worked with EU.
That's EU project.
You had done that already before this one?
Yes, I had done that before this one. And so when I got to him, I said, okay, I will help you establish the training center. And you just pay me a little. It's not fees, but just give me money to set the structures right. And he was like, okay, no problem. And so we signed a contract. And then we started working on setting up the training center. Now, the training center is, if I told you that the place was looking like a boys' quarter, you can imagine what the training center looked like. It was a stadium that they were converting to a training facility, and with very, really not so good construction. So, in fact, a brand new structure that was leaking. When you're walking in that space, it's like it's raining on you. Water will be pouring on one side and you'll be walking on another side, I did not like it at all. But something within me told me that this was a good opportunity for me to add value, to give value back to my country, and to do something new, right? Something I had never done before. So and then the whole talk about young persons. There's a gap in education. There's a skills gap. We needed the business community to come, be hands on deck and help to, generally build and contribute to the skills gap in Nigeria. And so I think this is a good idea. And so I sat on my table for 1 week and wrote 1,000 proposals to different entities, individuals, government agencies, and all. And the people who I was working with were like, all this English that you are speaking, nothing has come out. We need to go and get money, advertise on social media, have billboards and everything. I said to them, this 1,000 letters is advert. 1,000 institutions or high net worth individuals are going to see the name of this institution on their table. Are those not the guys we're looking for on the billboards? And we wrote and wrote and wrote. Okay. Now, one of the reasons why I was brought there too is they had the impression that I had this connection with the international community. And so I could leverage it. And I did. I tried. After 1 month, we're entering the 6th week. I said to my sister, look, not a single person has replied. Let's run. Let's tell them that this thing is not working and we got a job somewhere and let's just take off. I can't, and so one day I came to the office. I had that in mind already. I was going to leave. I said, you see, this chamber business is not even going to work. Who will come here and think they want to do anything? And I wrote the letter. And you know how you drop the letter and be thinking about it? Because again, I'm an overthinker, which I think is might be a strength, but also a weakness. I think so hard about things before I implement them. It takes me time to make decisions sometimes. And I opened my email, and what did I see? An email from one of the major funders of skills in this country, GIZ. And they said, we've received your letter. We want to meet with you. I'm coming from there. So when I see a letter that looks like an email that looks like an approval, I already know that I have made some progress. And let me send a disclaimer. I don't believe that my personal efforts could have done anything for me without actually being connecting to my maker. So I pray a lot. I pray a lot. So this whole story I'm telling you came around thousands and thousands of hours of praying. So I can't. I'm sorry. Excuse my being so religious, but I can't leave that out. And so I called them.
The way I see the concept of prayer is, I think it's kind of weird because I see prayer as a way of being in tune to your maker that drives your commitment to a process, knowing there's a universal force of God driving your effort, rather than the prayer in itself calling to an entity outside there to come and get the things done. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So prayer has its own connection of the presence of God in your life, driving you to be the change maker in the active process, rather than calling a third party somewhere who's going to override process and protocols and make this happen for you all the time. That's my angle to it.
You see, let me say something about that. You see, the reason why we've been able to commercialize religion is because we see it the way you don't see it. Like that one entity there that I have to go and meet and I'll pay him money and he will do me a favor. No. Prayer is a relationship, right? You cannot go into prayer and come out of it. You go into prayer and then carry the prayer along. You live the prayerful life. You go to church or the mosque on Fridays, but actually church and mosque starts after you leave the mosque and the church, right?
I agree.
You come out and you implement you carry the presence and implement what you encountered where
That's right.
you're coming from.
I
Yes.
agree.
So if we have that kind of mindset, then I think 100% of the issues that we have will be solved, right? Because you know that you are not implementing your own plans, but the plans of the person who sent you to.
Correct.
This is, for me, the foundation of purpose, okay? So back to my life story. So I went for the meeting. They came to see us. And fast forward, in less than 9 months, 9 months, I got a letter saying that we hear that you've done a fantastic project in the Abuja Chamber of Commerce. You've been nominated for Best Skills Project on the Chambers of Commerce. And this email was coming from the International Chamber of Commerce. And so we're inviting you to Brazil, to the World Chambers Congress, to come for an award. And then they gave us all these documents to complete. So I was like, are these people serious? No, we're not going to win this award. They nominated they said they actually vetted 400 projects in the world, about 430 something. And we came top 5. So I said, no, these people are not serious. No, this email is fake. 9 months. Do you know the kind of hard life I've lived? I have lived a very hard life. I had to fight for everything I had, but not that I did not have favor in it. You know, it wasn't so hard, but I had to fight for it. So how can I do something in 9 months and you say you are giving me an award? No, I'm not going to Brazil. I'm telling you, I can be that stubborn. And so they said no. So this mentor came back, Prof, and said, Victoria, I know where you're coming from. You people are coming from this culture of excellence and everything has to be perfect before you can now assess it as good. But no, I want you to complete this documentation, get your Brazilian visa. We're going to Brazil together. I said, okay. I did the documentation. And then the whole Nigerian politics about travel started. I was like, okay, I'm very happy. Let them go and collect the award. But then, of course, I went. And we came back with the award. We came top 3. I think we came 3rd Of course, I still saw it as a privilege, because if you had seen the projects that came first, where the guy was presenting, I was lost. In fact, when they called us to present, I wasn't there. I was still thinking about the project. It was perfect. But our project also wasn't bad. We were able to train at that time we had this vision of training 1,000 young persons in various skills. We had trained maybe about 500, and they were really impressed. They gave us the award and we came back. So that was an encouragement, right? Said, okay, now let me restructure this place, because that's my mindset. I always want to make it better. When I wake up in the morning, I'm like, this thing, we succeeded. That was yesterday. And I have to acknowledge my elder sister too. Sometimes when I'm talking about my past, she's like, that is the past. You have not achieved any new thing today. So stop thinking about the past and let's see what we can get today. And so I came and thought about restructuring the whole training center, making it look nice, leverage on what we had done. But I also have to back up and tell you this very interesting story. So,
hold on. So the different dimensions that I'm seeing in this. So before she gets where I wanted to get to, where there's a gender issue where women go through a lot of hell to get what is rightfully should be theirs, and I wanted to get a perspective on the concept that she had to still push through value rather than yielding to pressure. That was a critical point for me.